My professional journey in education began with my completion of a bachelor's degree in applied learning and development from the University of Texas at Austin in 2004. I quickly learned my first year in the classroom that even though I ended my days exhausted, I had met my calling. I love that teaching allows me the opportunity to have a fresh start every day and the potential to make a difference in someone's life. Teaching forces me to continue to seek out new understandings and resources to help my students. It also fosters the love of learning I have always had. My hope is to instill this love of learning in my students so they too will be lifelong learners and productive members of society. Since I have started my journey 15 years ago, I have changed school districts and teaching assignments, but my love of teaching has never faltered. I have learned a lot, but I feel I'm at the point in my career where I want to learn even more. I always knew I wanted to pursue an advanced degree, but my time spent with my students helped to narrow my focus. Reading is a skill that's needed for success in life and full participation in society. In my 3rd and 4th grade classroom, I frequently had students who struggled with reading and were reading significantly below grade level. Even though I'm an experienced teacher, my students needed and deserved more than what I could provide. My love of my students, combined with my love for learning, prompted me to return to school to gain the understandings needed to support these struggling learners. America is often called the land of opportunity, and access to an education is part of this equation. Education in the United States has a rich history. As Golden has documented, in its early beginnings, education was not available to all students. And while tremendous amount of progress has been made, disparities in access to education still exist today, especially with minorities and lower socioeconomic groups. These groups continue to trail their white counterparts academically. According to Ladson-Billings, this achievement gap can be thought of as an education debt that has accrued over time. Ladson-Billings cites many reasons for this gap. We cannot pretend that the history of inequitable access to education does not still have ramifications to this day. But as teachers, what can we do to alleviate this problem? Anion believes that educators support the development of social classes in America within the elementary school curriculum. In his work, he discovered variances in teacher interactions with students, classroom expectations, and student work that was produced among different elementary schools representative of the social classes. These variances appear to prepare and predispose students for their future social classes in life. Regardless of the reasons behind these variances between different populations of learners, we as educators should be aware of this history and the part that we potentially can play in this dynamic. All students should be afforded equal opportunities. Freire discusses in The Pedagogy of the Oppressed that we must abandon oppressive systems and involve all learners in the co-creation of knowledge. While we can't change the education structure overnight, we as teachers can do our part. This starts with how we treat our students and the role we play in our communities. Teachers need to be involved in the community they serve to build the necessary partnerships between home and school. We must do our part to ensure that students have the tools and support they need both in and out of school to allow them the opportunity to reach their potential. We must advocate on behalf of our students and allow them to take an active role in their education. High expectations should be set for all learners to achieve their personal best, regardless of their place in society. Our students need to understand the importance of education and the ability it has to transform lives. The diversity of the learners that we teach calls for interdisciplinary approaches in order to provide an equitable education for these learners. Interdisciplinarity is not a new concept, but it is transformative in its potential in education. According to Nasani, interdisciplinarity refers to the ability of teachers to collaborate, seek out knowledge, and come together with others to provide the best support for learners. Interdisciplinarity allows teachers to draw from a variety of theories and practices to tailor their instruction to meet the needs of their learners. We must allow learners the opportunity to construct their own understandings from a variety of sources. As educators, we need to practice interdisciplinary approaches to model for our students new ways of solving problems. Interdisciplinarity also provides students with opportunities to work and learn from one another. This practice becomes inherently clear in collaborative classrooms where two teachers must work together and combine their strengths to help facilitate their students' learning. Teachers as segmented parts of the whole in a collaborative classroom allows for missed opportunities, the creation of new ideas. Educational learning theories shape everything we do as educators and have a huge presence in our approaches. It is important that educators use interdisciplinary approaches and have an understanding of different theories to create learning environments that are effective in meeting the needs of all learners. Knowledge of the different learning theories is essential in guiding our practice. Piaget's constructivist theory states that knowledge is based on the learner modifying, acting on, or transforming an object through an action that allows for the development of understanding and building upon prior schemas. Piaget also believed that students learn best through exploration and discovery of new concepts. The teacher's role is to support their understandings. Vygotsky, a social constructivist, added to the understandings about development in children with his theory of the zone of proximal development. The zone of proximal development is the range between what a learner can accomplish independently and what they have the potential to accomplish if provided with support. Vygotsky's ideas about the zone of proximal development shape how educators pace their teaching and challenge their students. By providing the appropriate amount of challenge at the appropriate stage of development, students are expected to make the most significant gains in learning. B.F. Skinner influenced the education field with his theory of behaviorism. His ideas of behavior reinforcement are still in practice today and can best be seen in classroom behavior management systems that support positive behaviors in an attempt to eliminate negative behaviors. Constructionism develops understandings in a hands-on approach. The theory calls on learners to develop their own knowledge of a concept through the construction of an artifact. Doing so provides learners with a high level of engagement and a visual of the different ways a task can be solved through divergent thinking. Situated learning allows the learner the opportunity to learn as an apprentice within the context being studied. The learner gains understandings from the act of being a participant within a community of learners. Andragogy concerns the teaching of adult learners. Since adult learners have different skill set, motivation for learning, and a greater amount of prior knowledge, educators must vary their methods for instruction for teaching this group of learners. As an elementary educator, I find myself drawing from the theories of Piaget, Vygotsky, and Skinner. These theories seem to work best with the demographic and needs of the learners that I work with. However, knowledge of all the different theories, and in particular, andragogy, will allow me to provide thoughtful instruction and support to the teachers and staff that I hope to eventually service in my future role as a reading specialist. Educators need to have a thorough understanding of a variety of learning theories. Given the diversity of our learners, education must never follow a one-size-fits-all approach. Educational decisions need to be based off of the specific needs of the learners. Knowledge of different learning theories provides teachers with the tools to support learning and make educational decisions in an informed manner. In my classroom, my understanding of the different learning theories guides my approaches and instructional decisions that I make daily. I utilize Vygotsky's zone of proximal development by providing the appropriate amount of support to meet the needs of my learners. In wrapping up units in science and social studies, I frequently use a constructionist approach and allow my learners to demonstrate their understanding of the concept through the creation of an artifact. Skinner's theory of behaviorism is seen in my system of classroom management when I reinforce positive behaviors that my students demonstrate in an attempt to continue that pattern of behavior. As a reading specialist, I must be prepared to support a variety of learners. A thorough understanding of the different learning theories will allow me to effectively help both students and teachers in the educational setting. We teach in a very dynamic time. We are faced with educating a diverse population of learners. Our learners are diverse in terms of race, ability, language, culture, and sexual orientation, to name just a few. To meet the needs of these learners, we must look at these differences as strengths rather than challenges. We must use practices that allow all learners to feel included and use our learners' unique perspectives and backgrounds for the basis of our instruction. We must create opportunities in our instruction to allow for the individuality of each student to shine through. As educators of 21st century students, we must design, teach, and support the integration of technology within our classrooms. These skills are necessary for future success. Teaching is my passion, and with passion comes strong convictions. After taking this course, I now feel even more empowered to take my new understandings and apply them to my practice. After learning about the history of education in the United States, and specifically the obstacles that some groups still encounter, I pledge to make my classroom one that makes all learners feel welcomed and valued. I will use a variety of texts and experiences to reach my diverse learners. I will use what I have learned from Anyon to make sure that all of my students are given the opportunity to question, because I know that these questions are crucial to developing their understandings. I will provide opportunities for my students to have choice in their learning and opportunities to learn from one another. I will integrate technology into my teaching to tap into the interests of my students and develop the skills that they need to be future leaders in our society. Most importantly, I will continue to learn and grow my knowledge of teaching with the students that I work with to make sure that I meet the needs of every student that I service.